Heroes rise like morning sun, chasing points, the game's begun. Big decisions week by week, fantasy glory's what we seek. Pick your squad, the clock won't wait. Captain choice will seal your fate. Two enthusiasts breaking it down. Fantasy kings, we're taking the crown.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tinker Time, an FPL pod, the show for every fantasy Premier League manager who's already second-guessing their fourth draft. It's Sunday, September 14th, 2025, and whether you're wildcarding after week 4 or just here to scout some differentials, you've come to the right place. I'm Matt, alongside Jim, and we're here to help you tweak, test, and yes, tinker your way back to the top of your mini leagues. We'll break down the best value picks, fixture trends, and hidden gems, so you don't have to stare at your squad screen in despair. So let's pop the hood, crack open the spreadsheet, and get tinkering. It is my pleasure, and this is becoming a common occurrence, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. Ladies and gentlemen, a man who needs no introduction, but obviously needs an introduction because we are a podcast and there is no video here. The man, the myth, the legend, FPL Black Lab is back with us today. Z, how the hell are you?
Good, man. Officially the longest tenured guest. Sorry, Ost, taking that title from you. Man, what a weekend. I mean, here in the States, we got Premier League all weekend. We got college football. We got NFL in full swing. We got Yankees Red Sox on as we record. I mean, we are gluttons for sports right now. It is a wonderful thing. How are you?
Fall is falling. It's a fun time of year for sports, I will say. I just want to address something just right off the rip because I know some of our listeners across the pond probably are wondering, hey, what happened to the Gameweek 4 preview? I'm not going to beat around the bush. There was a Gameweek 4 preview. Mid-record, my laptop decided to restart in order to install a system update. And when it returned to, its updated system, the recording was gone. So it was late. And I had a very early start the next day at the big Eastern Exposition Festival. So there was no preview episode, but I just want to put that out there. We did not miss the episode. We had some technical difficulties. So I apologize to anyone who was on the edge of their ears, who was waiting for an episode to drop Friday. Our apologies go out. We're not perfect, but we're trying. So
You would say your technology's performance was as strong as United was today against City?
Ooh, we're using an Apple stack here, so it's not that bad, but yeah, I mean, I don't want to spoil anything. Manchester's blue. I'm just gonna say it. The derby in recent history has had some fireworks, but I don't know what that was today. I mean,
Not so much today.
not
Very
so much
one-sided
today.
today.
Yeah, I mean, dark hair Phil Foden, he's undefeated. He's just he's a force to be reckoned with.
Hey, good to see him back. Good FPL asset. One of my favorites over the years. So good to see him back and
Good
involved.
to see him back. But interestingly enough, we talk about goals, we talk about City scoring goals, winning the derby, but I want to talk more about really the headline of this weekend, and more so, I think overall, kind of the headline of the season thus far. Where are the goals, Zach?
Goals are
I know you've been doing a little
non-existent,
bit of
man.
research.
Yeah,
Lay it
I was,
on me.
I was watching the early kickoff. I was watching my Gunners against Forest, which ended up in a clean sheet. At the same, then shortly after, a couple other ones were going on. In my head, I said, I feel like there's a lot of clean sheets this year. So I did a little research. And last year, through the first 4 game weeks, there was 18 clean sheets across the league. This year, through the first 4 game weeks, there are 32 clean sheets after today. Another 2 clean sheets today. So
32 clean sheets.
almost double the amount of clean sheets, which is, for FPL is massive,
So
in
let's
terms of
let's think about
strategy.
that, right? Because there are 10 games in a game week. There are technically 20 opportunities for a clean sheet because both teams could get a clean sheet. 20 times 4, there are 80 clean sheet opportunities, right? So you're saying almost half of the games already have resulted in a clean sheet. 32 out of 80 games. Is that what you're
Yep.
saying?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, I think I looked at it quickly, but I think last year through the first 4, there was, I think maybe 2 0-0 clean sheets, and there wasn't any today, right? So I believe through Gameweek 4 this year, there's 6 or 8. Don't quote me on that. I looked very quickly on that number, but I thought that was kind of startling too to see that many 0-0s in the uptick as well.
Yeah, I mean, we had 2 more this week. It's it's honestly astonishing, and, it's funny because I feel like FPL this year, they almost tried to do something to reward defenders because maybe they felt like defensive or clean sheets were like a thing of the past, which, to
Right.
be very honest, I hadn't looked at the data, but I also just kind of had like that underlying feeling that like clean sheets were fewer and further between. But it feels like this season, and you see it with the team of the week and the player of the week, the first 3, they were all defenders. They're not getting those points just by scoring goals. Like, they're also getting those clean sheets, which that's a huge point contribution. It's wild. I don't know if it's just there were a lot of games being played this summer and we've got folks with tired legs,
Yep.
if a little bit of, summer hangover and the goals are still coming. I mean, Villa have not done anyone any favors when it comes to the goal scoring department, but it's very odd to see such a lack of goals this early on in the season.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a famous FPL strategy of like they call big at the back, right? And you can spend more of your money in your defense rather than your midfield or your attack. Which I know I've been on the pod talking about. My strategy this year is going without Salah and without Holland. So for me, I have all the money in the world to basically buy whoever I want. So I've gone with the big at the back strategy just because I have the money to invest. And, as we'll get into later this week or later this episode, I had a great week scoring wise. And most of that's because of my defense. You get a
Mm.
clean sheet in DEF CON and you're looking at an 8-pointer for a center back. You put 4 of those in your lineup, you get 32 points right there. So,
Yeah.
it's an you know, it's a real strategy to consider as, things start to shake out and we start to see what midfielders are actually producing and not and where you want to spend your money. But yeah, I just thought it was an interesting note with how many more clean sheets were going on. And will it continue? It may. But even if not, we're almost 2 times ahead of the pace from last year. So we'll see where it goes on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely a fan of more goals, but it's just tough. I mean, it would be nice if some of these clean sheets would would come from some of the defenders that are on my team, but because it feels like all of the clean sheets they're not coming
They're my
from,
team.
well, let me tell you where they're probably not going to be coming from. Before we talk about this other guy who maybe will be scoring some goals, I think the big change in some of the tactics that we can expect. So over the last week, major headline, Marinakis over at Forest fired Nuno and brought in his good buddy, Ange Postacoglu. Have you heard of him?
Well, a
Ange,
little
Big
bit.
Ange?
Big Ange. Have you heard
So
of him?
so if folks haven't heard of Big Ange, European champion winning gaffer, Big Ange, looking very well rested, very tan, which when he was asked, one of the reporters said, Ange, you look very tan, very well rested. And he said, well, mate, that means I'm out of a job. I wish I was pale and exhausted. So thank you, but no thank you, which I love that answer. I mean, I love Ange. I'll say it. I'm glad he's back in the Prem.
He's always going to be honest. He's a great
Yeah,
press conference, let me tell you.
yeah. But, from an FPL perspective, as someone who owned multiple Forest defenders and Forest keeper, I couldn't be less thrilled with this move. We all saw what Ange brought to the Prem when he came to Spurs a few seasons ago. He's going to have the highest line possible.
Mhm.
He is going to try to outscore the opponent. He would much rather win a game 4-3 than win a game 1-0. He is not afraid to let the opposition score. That's just not his strategy to prevent goals. He's just going to try to outscore you. So when we talk about where are the goals, if you're trying to, figure out where the goals are going to come, you might not need to look any further than Forest or whoever's playing Forest, I should say.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of conundrum, right? Because Nuno was such a defensive first manager and it worked great for Forest, right? Got him into Europe. They had a fantastic year. Everyone was sort of pivoting off of that, bringing in their defense for this year. It hasn't worked. Their defense this year, they've given up goals. They haven't hit DEFCON. People were panicking anyways, and now all of a sudden you bring, a very attack-minded manager. A part of me wants to believe, given how it went at Spurs, and yeah, he won Europe, and will forever be remembered for the first trophy in Spurs history. But he did terribly in the Premier League. I mean, his record
Yeah.
last year was horrendous. You would think he's going to change his approach a little bit, but
Eh,
at the same time, if you're Forced and you're switching managers from a hyper defensive manager to Ange, it's probably like on purpose, right? Like we want to be more front footed, we want to be more attacking. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, in the Arsenal game, I mean, obviously we'll get to the score and how it played out. They weren't as aggressive and the line wasn't as high, but he's also only been there for a few days. But
right,
again,
right.
they did get picked apart and they didn't really pressure. So, there could be a lot of reasons for that. Arsenal's a better team than Forest, but it will be something to keep an eye on. And if I'm sitting on multiple Forest defenders right now, I'm sweating a little bit. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and just a classic example of and of course, hindsight is always going to be 2020. I think, for me, it's just the classic, did I pull my wild card a little early? Maybe. Did I foresee Nuno and Marinakis having a falling out? Honestly, no. I mean, I don't think anybody did. Nuno really brought them from, you know, I think they finished a few points above relegation a few seasons ago, and now they're in a European competition. I mean, Nuno really brought some structure, some stability, some expectation, frankly, to the club, and to see that relationship just completely dissolve to the point where he's sacking him 3 games into a campaign after they just qualified for a European competition is mind boggling. Maybe he slept with his wife or something. I don't know. I mean, Nuno seems like he's kind of a snake. I don't know. But yeah, it's I'm excited to see Ange back. I think that to your point, I think his style maybe it's not really best suited for the Prem, but if if
If
that
they're scoring
means
goals, it's great for
yeah,
FPL, right? And that's what
right.
matters.
If
You
that
just got to find the right assets to target. Is that Chris Wood? He
right,
doesn't strike me as the striker that, is meant for Ange's system, but Chris Wood's Chris Wood. I mean, they got great fixtures coming up and he's just a talisman for that team. So a lot of new signings at Forest. Now you have a new manager. It's just something to monitor, keep an eye on week to week to see where the minutes are going, who's playing where, and then sort of make your mind up from there. They haven't impressed enough where you want to be owning a lot of Forest assets at this point, anyways.
right, right. Speaking of new signings, the German Wonder Boy, Voltemade,
6'6" Messi
6'6"
arrived.
Messi, like you said, slotted right in to Newcastle. And correct me if I'm wrong. I thought I saw videos floating around the interwebs. There's a lot of stuff going on in the interwebs this weekend, so it was hard to figure out what was true and what wasn't. But did I see Vissa actually had an injury?
Yeah, so they said he had a slight knock. I don't think it's anything to be concerned about.
Okay.
But Eddie
I
Howe did come out in his press conference on Friday saying that Voltemade was further along in his fitness,
okay.
which
Okay.
basically was his way of saying he'll start over Wissa. So I was very tempted to bring him in. I thought it was just a little risky, not knowing for sure. But yeah, he performed. I mean, great back post header. What you would expect from a 6'6" giant on the pitch, just looking men amongst boys out there and doing what you would want him to do. So great start for him in his Newcastle campaign. And there's still going to be the minutes risk with
Mhm.
Vissa. There's a lot of attackers, and Eddie Howe does some weird things with his lineups. But if you're number 9 and you're scoring goals, you're going to be in the team. So another one to monitor week over week and see.
Yeah, one thing you cannot teach is size.
Nope.
Just 6'6". I mean, he's head and shoulders above some of those defenders. I mean, basically, Dan Burn is one of the few people that can defend him, and he's on his team. So, I mean, just think about Newcastle on corners, on set plays. I mean, they're going to be dangerous. We'll talk more about them, but nice little debut. Nice for him to just kind of get that opening goal. Nice start for Voltamade. And, we would be remiss if we didn't mention this is the fourth time in 4 games Liverpool, and I'm gonna start with a compliment. Now, if anybody knows anything about me, huge Power Rangers fan growing up. If my sister's listening, she knows that, my favorite Power Ranger was the Green Ranger, Mighty Morphin, none of that, like, weird crap after that, because obviously I was too old for that, but Green Ranger, Tommy, OG Ranger. Liverpool comes out today looking like the Green Power Ranger out there with those uniforms, with those kits. I gotta get Liverpool is killing the kick game this season.
Yeah,
Absolutely
those were
nailed it.
nice. Those are very
Those are
nice.
very nice. I gotta hand it to Burnley. I mean, Burnley handled them. I shouldn't say they handled them, but they didn't succumb to the attack. They handled the pressure, bent, they didn't break. By was it the 95th minute, 96th minute? By a flailing arm, Frimpong just kinda just I don't even think he was really trying to really put a ball in the box. Just kinda, just put something and, flailing arm out there, handball, and who steps up? Mr. Hairplugs himself, the Egyptian king, the wing dragon of Ra, Mo Salah himself, slots it home. I mean, 4 out of
It's
4,
just
12 points,
infuriating.
top of the table. Infuriating.
Yeah, as someone who refuses to own Salah and also supports the team that has been competing directly with them for multiple seasons, to see this happen week in and week out is just infuriating. It's almost to the point where you just know it's going to happen, and it's like,
Yeah,
okay, 0-0, how are they gonna win this game in the last second? People will say, "Well, that's what champions do, they find a way to win," but it is infuriating to watch.
yeah,
They keep pulling off these 3-point wins, getting wins, 3 points in the bag with performances like this. I mean, credit to them. It's gonna pay dividends, but they still don't look as strong to me, and I don't know if that's just the new signings figuring it out or what, but it's just Liverpool being Liverpool at this point. This is
yeah,
what it must have been like supporting, United during the Fergie era, where they would just get goals in extra time all the time. Great for them. Would love to see it happen to some other teams too.
yeah. Brutal way to, start your Sunday. At least we had some football games. I know Giants fans had some excitement today, but, the Eagles still won, so good for us. But you guys have Russell Wilson, you know?
He had a good game until he didn't. It's
Oh,
exactly what I would expect from Russell Wilson.
yeah. I saw some meme of him the other day. It was like Russell Wilson through the years, and it was basically like a picture of him of like every ethnicity. He's got like have you ever seen this one? He's got like every year he transformed like he has like a Hispanic personality, a white personality, like an African American personality. And I'm like, yeah, this is interesting because like he does kind of like it was very
He's a
odd. Like
chameleon.
yeah, like it was weird, but
He's a robot. I'm still convinced.
people have a
I'm
lot
convinced
of
he's a robot.
people have a lot of time on their hands. I don't understand it. Anyway, so that brings us to the player of the week. So shout out. I hate to do this, but I have to. This is back to back. I think Arsenal players. Player of the week, Martin Zubamendi, midfielder, 16 points. So he had 2 goals, 1 clean sheet. He only had 2 defensive contributions, so nothing from that. But he did snag 3 bonus points in 90 minutes. I will give you the floor on this one as the resident Arsenal expert. Talk to us about Marty.
Yeah, I mean, the first goal was absolutely incredible. I mean, if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and go see it. It was
It's a
a
nice
corner
volley.
kick. Yeah, corner into the box, headed out. He's sitting outside the edge of the box. Side volley into the corner was just perfect. Yeah, he played a great game. I mean, obviously, no DEFCON, but Arsenal held the ball for essentially the entire game, and controlled the game. 2 goals will get you 3 bonus points when you score 2 out of the 3. But good performance for him, and not something I would consider is going to continue to happen. I think I saw somewhere This was the first goal scored outside the box in his career. He's not really one to get too far forward, so not one I'd be bringing in on the back of this performance thinking it's going to continue. It's just one of those you put your hands up and say, "Fantastic game," and move on.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about the game itself, but shout out to our buddy Beej, who first off is expecting him and his wife Sam. Shout out to them. Very exciting, and if we weren't supposed to announce it, well, sorry, but I think he just transferred out Zubamendi this past week. So you lost one thing, Beej, but you gained another. So you got to
Yep,
pick me or your kid.
that's it.
So yeah, but yeah, that brings us to our biggest flops of the week. So, Jim and I, we went kind of back and forth the other week on this one, whether Watkins and Salah can really be considered flops. But I want to throw a third name in there, and I mean, you can react to all three. So Watkins, Salah, and Verts, right? So for those that are pod only, which is everyone, because we don't have any video just yet, but on the screen here, I've got a heat map of Mo Salah's basically his performance thus far this season, with some of the other players that have shared the pitch with him. And basically, what you see is Salah is basically hugging that right touch line, but very nearby to him is Verts. So what may be happening is he and Verts are kind of learning how to play together, kind of a la Odegaard and Saka, which could also explain a little bit of Verts being pretty absent. I think Verts has basically gone 2-2, 3-2 in his 4 games, point return wise. So I don't know, Z. I mean, to me, out of the three, Salah, he's a flop in the sense that he's 14 and a half. He's still on pace for 200 plus because I think he's had a goal or an assist in every game this season, but it hasn't really been convincing.
Mhm.
Verts is only priced at 8.5, I believe. Well, he's to start the
Yes.
campaign, he was at 8, but I think it's down now. He's had a couple price drops. Watkins started the campaign at 9, but Villa still haven't scored this season, I
No.
believe, right?
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
like, out of the 3, I mean, what do you make of these flops?
yeah, it's hard to call Salah a complete flop because he is still returning. Like, eye test would say he's playing very poorly. He's a flop for the standard of what Salah was last year. I mean, part of why I didn't bring him in this year is I just didn't think he could replicate that. I mean, it was such an incredible season. He still very well could and go on a good run, right? I mean, he's still producing points while playing poorly. I guess that's what you'd want from, one of the best players in FPL, but just he hasn't really had that haul yet. He hasn't even looked like he's going to haul yet. He's staying very wide, that sort of right side of the attack, losing Trent on the, at fullback, and you got a bunch of new signings in there. Him and Verts haven't really figured out the connection, like you said. I'm sure it'll come in time. It's just right now it's frustrating if you spend 14.5 million on an asset and you captain him against Burnley, thinking he's going to absolutely haul. There's even a couple triple captains of him in our mini league. You got your return, that's great, but you look in the derby and Holland gets 2, right? So again, somebody who's a couple mil cheaper is outperforming. So that's what you kind of have to look at. In terms of Watkins and Wirtz, I mean, they are the biggest flops in FPL history so far. I mean, Watkins was 5 goals in 5 games in preseason. Everybody wanted Watkins, right? Villa looked great last year. The attack was awesome. Him and Rogers, they haven't even scored a goal. As a Watkins and Wirtz owner, personally, like it's
Yeah,
brutal every week,
yeah.
right? I mean, inverts the same thing. I mean, for 8.5 million, you're expecting some sort of return. I mean, he's too good of a player not to adapt to the Premier League in return, and they both have just looked really poor. So,
Do you think Emery's on the hot seat?
yeah, I think he has to be. I mean, I don't know how your team goes from playing so well last year. You have the majority of the same players, especially in attack, and it's just looked terrible. It's they look
Yeah.
lifeless. They're playing like a team that doesn't want to play for their manager anymore. And we've seen this with Emery with other teams too, where like he kind of has a good bounce for a year or two, and like people buy into his methodologies, and then all of a sudden it's like a sharp drop off where he's just a tough manager to play for. And yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, they have 2 promoted teams coming up next, right? I think they have Burnley and Sunderland
Mm.
next, if I'm not mistaken. If they don't show anything in those games, he has to be on the hot seat.
Yeah. Yeah. And respect to Burnley and Sunderland. I mean, Burnley just gave Liverpool, who are top of the table, they just gave them a run for their money for 95 and a half minutes, right? So, Sunderland, they haven't been embarrassed, I would say, thus far this season.
No,
So,
no.
that's the beauty of the Prem. You can't take games off. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Watkins at this point, and I think I said this in the last step, but I would almost rather let him go on. Like I could live with him going off and being late to the party than having him in my squad and just like having that money be burned. I'd rather be late to the party than early and just like waiting for him to show up at this point.
Yeah, he's been such a trap because like I've owned him since week 1, and it's like every time you go to sell him, you look at his fixtures coming up, and you're like, well, it can't stay this bad, right? It's like the law of averages, like they're gonna have to score eventually. And now it's like I want to sell him again this week, but then I look at 2 promoted teams coming up. So he is such a trap as an owner, and what to do with him. So yeah, credit to anybody who sells and is ahead of the game, and for those that hold on, if he returns, then good for you.
Yeah. Well, there was a whole slate of games this week. Why don't we just do a little bit of recap, give folks a little bit of a sense of what went down in some of the games, what to expect coming out of the games. We talked a little bit about some of them, but we want to make sure we're giving everyone their rightful time. So first game was to kick off the game week was Arsenal Forest. Arsenal won this one 3-0. Just kind of walking through this one. We talked about Zubamendi. We did see Odegaard come off in the 18th minute with an injury. We'll talk about that a little bit in a moment. Zubamendi scored that first beauty off a set piece. We'll call it open play, but it was technically off a set piece. So to score 1-0. Rio came off for Forest in the 37th minute with an injury. Gyökeres scored on the 46th, right after half, with an assist by Eze to make it 2-0. Then Ange started to make a few subs on the attacking end. Calafiore got a yellow card in the 61st. Then Arteta made a few subs to get some fresh legs out there. And Zubamendi scored his third goal in the 79th minute with an assist by Trossard to make it 3-0. Pretty clean match here for Arsenal. I don't think they ever really felt too much pressure from Forest. Pretty much dominated possession. No real big chances here from Forest, but maybe talk a little bit about the Odegaard injury here. What did you see? Was it trying to remember, was it a hamstring or was it an ankle?
No, it was a shoulder. So it's the same
Shoulder.
shoulder that he hurt in before the Liverpool game. It's his left shoulder, I believe. He played 90 minutes both games for Norway in the break, so I was pretty optimistic it was better. But he went to a pretty nasty challenge and landed on that shoulder awkwardly. Kicked on for a few minutes after, and then they decided to take him off. So haven't seen anything yet. I'm sure we'll get something tomorrow when the teams get back together, but that's definitely one to keep an eye on. I think the only really takeaways from this game, from my perspective, another Arsenal clean sheet. Their defense just continues to produce for FPL purposes. Another goal for Gyökeres was a tap in. You or I could have scored that goal, but really well done from
I don't know about me, but all right.
really well done from Eze on that play. Nice to see him get a return on his first start. He looked very promising. Something really different on the left that we didn't have. So at 7.5 million, his price point's really cool for FPL. For those that want to take a chance, obviously Arsenal has a couple tough fixtures coming up, but controlled, good performance for Arsenal. Forest didn't really ever threaten throughout the game at all.
Are you worried about, just curious, I mean, I'm assuming Rice didn't start just purely coming out of the international break, just trying to give his legs a little bit of rest?
Yeah, so Marino or Arteta said he wanted to basically use the confidence that Marino had in this game since he scored 4 goals in 2 games for Spain.
Hmm.
Personally, I think after all the media came out saying that he played 3 defensive midfielders against Liverpool, and Arteta was very aggressive saying that he doesn't think Marino's a defensive midfielder. I think he wanted to prove in this game that he could be
Hmm.
attack-minded. But no, Marino played great. I mean, he's a great midfielder. Came off a great international break. So Arsenal has a lot of depth. We're going to see rotation, especially with Champions League coming up this week and starting. It's a great game to give Rice some time off. And you know what? The luxury of bringing Declan Rice in the 60 something minute
Right.
is almost just a cheat code to run the midfield. So we'll see some rotation for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Tough game for Forest defense. Tough game for just Forest all around. If this didn't sound the alarm to start jumping ship, uh, consider this the alarm. Just I think it's time to move on out. Ange at this point is going to start to try to figure out what he has in his squad. You saw Chris Wood, you saw Hudson Odoi come on out in the 60th minute. Ange needs to figure out what he has to work with. These are not his players, so he's not really emotionally or like really even tactically tied to any of these guys. So I, at this point, don't really have any confidence in anyone in the squad other than maybe Sells, but I don't really trust their defense whatsoever. I'm done talking about Forest. Let's move on. All right. So second game is interesting. Bournemouth,
Yep.
Brighton. So this was a fun one. I mean, the most popular name here, of course, Semenyo, right? So
Mhm.
18th minute, Bournemouth score 1-0 by Alex Scott, assisted by none other than Antoine Semenyo. Yellow card by Senesi in the 36th minute. De Kuiper came off in the 24th minute for Brighton with an injury. Have to see how that one shakes out. I know he's pretty decently owned. I know for myself he is owned at a 4.5 mil defender, so we'll have to see how that one plays out. Matoma, right after half, on the 48th minute, scored for Brighton to level it, assisted by Minta, and then Semenyo converted a penalty in the 61st minute to make it 2-1. And that was pretty much it for, other than a couple of yellows towards the end. This was an interesting one, got a little chippy at the end. Saw Herzler get a yellow, it looks like, in the 94th minute. But yeah, overall, this was an interesting one. It was nice to see Semenyo get the return. But yeah, Semenyo again, just essential
Yeah,
at this point.
he's yeah, for his price, I mean, he's been the best FPL asset this year.
Yeah.
This is one of those games that you think it's either gonna be an exciting up and down affair or it's gonna be like a KG 0-0. Both teams have been really good this year so far. And it was an exciting game. The biggest takeaway for me from this game is the penalty and Semenyo taking it. So now Clivert wasn't on the pitch. He came in after the penalty, but last year Justin Clivert took the penalties for Bournemouth.
Mm.
I It's interesting to me because as a Semenyo owner, but I think the way he's been playing and sort of he's taking that next step forward, like it wouldn't surprise me if he's their penalty taker now. If he's on penalties, he is a must-own asset, like
Yeah.
across the board until shown otherwise. I mean, he's honestly, this is his last year in Bournemouth. He will be at a big club next year if he continues like this. So yeah, he's just a joy to watch play football. He's just relentless, up and down, multiple shots a game. He's selfish. It's everything you want in a fantasy asset. So if he stays on penalties, he's a must buy.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have really anything to add there other than, Brighton, again, kind of get that like Jekyll and Hyde. You don't really know what you're going to get, right? Like, is this the
Yep.
Brighton that kind of outplayed City in the second half, or is this the Brighton that got dominated by Bournemouth, right? Like,
Yeah, they always
and
play up. When they're playing the big teams, they play them really tight, and then
it's so tough. It's so tough. And no disrespect to Bournemouth, like, you know, on paper, right? Like Bournemouth have been, well, on paper, Bournemouth don't look like they should be like even competing with some of these teams, but then eye test, they look good. So I don't know. Iriola's got those boys playing, but yeah, then the name that stands out, and if you don't have him in your team yet, get Semenyo in your team. He's affordable. His price will likely go up. We'll take a look at prices before we wrap this one up. But moving on, the next the next two matches, Crystal Palace and Sunderland. I mean, if you had any of their defenders, the match recap, 0-0, right? I mean, nothing really to talk about here. No goals, right? disappointing if you were a Mateta owner, but if you were a Mark Gahey owner, if you were a LaCroix owner, a Richards owner, a Munoz owner, maybe even a Tyreek Mitchell owner, maybe there's a couple of those out there, maybe a Dean Henderson owner, you're probably happy you got the clean sheet. I will say personally, we'll talk about team points a little bit later. I ended up actually banking my transfers, and I'll get into it a little bit later. But I was happy that this game ended 0-0 because I started Reynildo, who ended up giving me a clean sheet. So, but other than that, I don't really have anything to talk about on this one. You got anything?
No. Crystal Palace looked like a team that was missing their two most creative players.
Mm.
As gone, Sar's hurt, and it just kind of showed.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll do it. Um, all right. Now this one, Everton and Villa also ended 0-0. Now this one, I'm curious, right? So this one on paper, Everton probably should have scored. So Everton, if you look at the underlying stats, Everton had an expected goal of 2.08. They had 20 shots, 2 shots on target, 3 big chances, 10 corners, no goals. That's a pretty large difference between expected and actual. And when you see that many shots, that high of an expected amount of goals, that many chances, that many corners to have no conversion, um, 1.04 expected goal from open play, 1.04 expected goal from set play, a non-penalty expected goal of 2.08. These are pretty high numbers. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Everton's attack has looked fantastic, honestly.
Shout out Jackie
I'm sh
boy.
I mean, pick your poison there for which asset you want. I mean, Grealish, Njai, and Dewsbury Hall, I mean, they're all cheap, and they all have offered attacking returns. I mean, they look great.
Yeah,
It's just something we don't say about Everton a lot. I mean, I'd like to just shout out my boy Tarkowski, just absolute DEFCON monster.
yeah.
Um, Hitting it again, another clean sheet. This is just, again, I think the bigger story here is just how poor Villa have been. Shame Everton couldn't take advantage of it because I think their attack deserved it. But Emi Martinez back from being sort of exiled during the transfer window and put a man of the match performance in for Villa. So not a whole lot to say here. I think Everton's attack, you take the fact that they continue to perform and continue to put shots on target, and that's what you want for any of those assets you own.
The only thing I have to say, Bizot.
Marco Bizot.
Marco Bizot. That's it. Yeah, no, I mean, you nailed it with Tarkowski. I know I mean, he was one of those names, like, even before the season started, like, he was tagged as, like, DEFCON master.
Mhm.
He's been doing it for sure. He's
Yeah.
he's been fitting that bill. Grealish is resurrecting himself, and I love it for him. He looks happy, he looks free, he looks like he has just the weight of the football world is just kind of just shedding off his shoulders, and you're seeing it in his play. Granted, there were no goals in this game, but like you talk about, you know, if you do decide you want to move on from Salah, there are so many options. I mean, you can afford 2 Grealishes. You can afford Semenyo and Grealish, I think, right now. Don't quote me on that, but like
Yeah, you
almost
could.
for the price of Salah. But moving on. So we have Fulham Leeds. Now this one, Fulham ended up winning 1-0. This was another one that was, 0-0 up until the 94th minute off of an own goal from a 4 mil defender, Goodmanson. You almost felt for him because I think I actually watched this one happen live. I feel like he was almost anticipating some contact, or he was almost anticipating like someone to cut in front of him, and I think he kind of got caught in like I don't want to touch this ball, but I can't not touch this ball, and it was like the perfect angle, just like perfect header right past his keeper, slotted it in. Just absolutely like gut wrenching for Leeds to give up that goal.
Yeah, and Leeds have actually been playing really well to start the
Mm,
year. I mean, all the promoted teams have, we talked about, but yeah, that is just a brutal way to drop points away from home.
yeah.
An own goal in the last second of the game. I mean, really the only, 2 FPL takeaways from this game is, Josh King blanked. but he's a $4.5 million
Yeah.
midfielder, right? Like you're going to get these games. I think the bigger story is Anderson from Fulham, clean sheet. I believe you hit DEFCON again. He's looking like a really solid asset for a cheap defender as a center back there.
Yeah. Yeah, I've still got my eye on DCL only because right now I just like I feel like it's Holland and I don't know who else right now. Like if I'm looking for I mean right now I've got Ekatike. I think João Pedro is probably like as close to that second essential forward as you can have at this point, but I don't know who that third player is, and I think Calvert-Lewin, if I remember, I wanna say he's 6 mil. And I don't think we've seen a Leeds penalty just yet. So, I mean, he seems to be getting his fitness up, and he got I think how many minutes? He got almost 70 minutes this week. You know, he's getting shots in the box. What did he have? Point 0.3 expected goals. So he's getting some shots in the box. It could be someone who, you know, to keep an eye out for, but you know, and he's not jumping off the page just yet. But yeah, I mean, Leeds defense has had some returns this season, believe it or not. But yeah, you know, you feel for him. Yeah, a 4 mil defender who ended up costing you points. He went from a clean sheet and he was probably on bonus as well to end up minus. Well, he went from clean sheet and maybe some bonus to 0 because he got -2 for the own goal and he lost the 2 points for the 90 minutes. So yeah, that was a tough swing for him. Tough one. All right, moving on to Newcastle Wolves. So we talked about Voldemade getting his goal on the 29th. This was a fun one for Newcastle. Pretty much dominated Wolves again, 16 total shots. Really not too much to talk about here. Asula came on for Voldemade in the 6th. Kind of expected that. I mean, I didn't expect Voldemade to play a full game. Jacob Murphy with the assist, so he's gonna probably I would say he's probably got the right-hand side nailed down. I mean, have you heard anything else with what went on with Alanga? I mean, why he didn't
No,
play?
it's weird. Eddie House has a weird lineup to start the year. He keeps tinkering every match, basically. He hasn't played the same lineup, I don't think, twice yet, but I was shocked not to see Alanga in the starting lineup in this game, but Murphy ended up having a really good game. Who knows what that means for, for the next
Do you
ones.
do you think there's anything going on, like because correct me if I'm wrong, Alanga and Isak are national teammates as well.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Do you think there's anything
Yeah, I
going
mean,
on behind closed doors where, like, Alanga's kinda being like, "Hey, like, the way you treated my fellow national brethren, you know, and he's kind of acting out." I mean, it just seems very odd that they would pay to bring Alanga in, seemingly to like, Jacob Murphy is a good depth piece, but I don't see him as someone who should, like, push Alanga out of the starting lineup,
yeah, I mean, this lineup just screams to have Alanga in it. Like Alanga and Barnes on the wings with Voltemade in the middle, like
right?
sending crosses in, playing off them. It doesn't make much sense. And then you got Gordon coming back into the equation. I mean, they're going to have Champions League too, so you're going to see some rotation with their players as well. But yeah, the game before, Howe played like two midfielders in those spots instead of wingers. So he is moving things around all over the place. But there's not a lot of Newcastle attack I would want right now in my FPL team, just giving the risk.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's, I think that's kind of the name of the game right now, and, we talked about this a little bit in the last ep too, like, it feels like a lot of teams right now, especially coming out of the transfer window are kind of in like a little bit of a wait and see. Like if you can hold out for a little bit as some of these teams start to figure out how some of their new pieces that maybe they just brought in late in the window, or even some of the pieces that they brought in a little bit earlier that are still kind of getting their footing, maybe they're new to the Prem, like things are going to shake out. Teams are not at like full strength. They're still figuring out their systems. If you can wait a little bit longer and kind of tread some water, it may be worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, patience sometimes in FPL is the best thing you could do. You want the shiny new toy, but it's always not worth it. And again, this week with Champions League and European fixtures, like this is where you start to see teams and what rotations they sort of do, who prioritizes what competition. So, this is where a lot of things start to change FPL wise and things you need to look at.
Anything else from this one?
No.
Okay. That brings us to Spurs. Now, it's this one's tough because I will preface this. Spurs have looked good, but I am not so naive to say like Spurs looked good when Ange came in, and we've also looked good against West Ham, and we also we've beaten teams that the teams haven't been great. So it's I'm trying to be excited, but I'm also trying to be reasonable. But why don't we let's talk through it first. Let's give folks a little bit of recap here. So Spurs played West Ham this game. Stats would say, yeah, first half was tough, but second half Spurs really turned it on. So first half, no goals, nothing really exciting. Second half, Spurs came out 47th minute. Pap Sarr scored 1-0, assisted by Xavi Simons. Jed Spence grabbed a yellow card in the 52nd minute. Thomas Suchek with a flying judo chop in the 54th got a red card, which really just kind of turned the game on its head. Lucas Bergvall with his first Premier League goal, beautiful header with an Christian Romero. I mean, that's why he's back there. I mean, he's a menace back there. He's a hothead, but he has that ability to just ping those balls in over the top, and Bergvall was the beneficiary of it. So good for him. Excited for him. Young, exciting player at Spurs. And Mickey Van de Ven, who is just, frankly, such a handsome guy. I mean, phew, assisted by Lucas Bergvall. So nice match for Bergvall. And at that point, West Ham were kind of dead and buried. Thomas Frank kind of brought in every sub possible at that point to kind of, get some fresh legs in, especially coming in after the international break. But Spurs looked good in the second half. I don't know what the first half was all about, but interesting lineup, I will say, for Spurs. I mean, before we talk Spurs, anything you want to say about West Ham?
No, I was kind of disappointed because coming off their win over Forest last week, I thought this was almost going to be a trap game for Spurs.
Oh,
Being, West Ham being the home team, I thought they were going to kind of sit, counter, steal a goal or two. Interesting lineup. They played Paqueta almost as like a false nine.
yeah.
He was an asset I was really intrigued by with his price. He's almost like a mini Bruno Fernandez, gets DEFCON, he's on penalties, but if West Ham keep putting performances in like this, it's just not worth going there. They just can't be trusted at this point, West Ham, right? You beat Forest 3-0, then get killed 3-0 by Spurs.
Yeah.
So credit to Spurs. They did what they were supposed to do against a lesser team. And I think that's more than you have done in the past. So I would take that as a positive as a Spurs fan.
Yeah. I would say one of the things that has been like just head scratching about Spurs the last few seasons is like we've been known to play down to lesser teams. Like I can recall many instances, like a few against even like Burnley before they got relegated, where like we had to go in, we had to get a win, and like we just like couldn't get the win against like a team like Burnley, who was I think getting relegated, and I'm just like, what are we doing? Like these are must win games. We are clearly the better team, and we just play down. So it was nice to see us go in and take care of business. Frankly, especially with this lineup. And
Yeah.
I get it coming in off international break. Frank was kind of forced to go to his third choice striker in Matthias Tell. Initially, I thought he just felt bad because he had to leave him off his Champions League roster, which I mean, you know more about this than I do because Tell technically, I know he didn't include him on the roster, but does Tell technically have to be included because he's on like the U21 or something like that? There's I don't know all the rules of that.
Yeah, there's some weird rules. I think there's another point in time where you can redo your roster as well. So there's like another chance for them to come on.
Yeah.
Because like Arsenal left like Gabriel Jesus off as he's like working back from fitness and training him. He'd be a good asset to have. But
Mm.
there's different rules into when you could bring people in or not. So not an expert in that.
Well, and I think Spurs had to also like didn't they have to declare it before the transfer window was closed, or was it after?
Mhm.
It was before?
It was. I think it's usually after the transfer window. It's like the day after.
Okay. Okay, maybe it was the day after. I might be, yeah, because I was like, like I imagine they'd want to have like Simmons and like Kolomoani on the team.
Yeah.
But
The rosters aren't as big for the Champions League, I believe, is what you can
right,
carry over the Premier League. So you always see a few names drop off.
yeah. But interesting roster nonetheless. Solid back line. Spence, I interested. I mean, Udogi's definitely. It's tough to say if Spence is kind of taken. I mean, you saw him get the start. Not sorry, not the start, but he made his England debut. I mean, it seemed like he got some praise. I think I forget who said it. I want to say it was like Rio. Maybe it wasn't him, but basically said like Spence might be like England's best one-on-one defender right now,
Mm.
which is I mean very high praise. I don't I'm maybe it wasn't Rio, but Spence has done a nice job. I mean, he's a nice
Yep.
little arc of coming in. Van de Ven, fastest guy in the league, just has to stay healthy. He's got the size. Nice to see him. Romero actually had a goal too, but softest foul I've ever seen ever. Disallowed goal. Poro had a quiet game, but that's okay.
Yep.
No big
Clean
deal
sheet.
there. Sar, he's still getting up there, kind of playing in that number 10 role. Very cheap FPL asset. If he's going to continue to get minutes, could be somebody you look to bring in. Simmons, nice to see him get in there, get an assist. Interesting that Brennan Johnson didn't play. Well, he didn't get the start, I should say, because he seemed to have locked down the left side. So interesting to see if this is the lineup that Frank ultimately goes with, or do we see Richie kind of slot back in? I know he was held back because Brazil had played at Bolivia, which is, I think they play basically in the middle of space because like the highest altitude ever. So, but overall, nice win for Spurs. They were joint top of the table before Liverpool's late minute theatrics. Um, Yeah, I mean, things are looking nice in Spurs land these days so far.
Yeah.
Let's keep it up. All right. Then that brought us to the Bees and the Blues. So this was an interesting one.
Even the kickoff was interesting.
Kickoff was
2:45 on a
interesting.
Saturday.
2:45 on a Saturday. I don't know what that was all about. I mean, Chelsea's lineup, I think, took a lot of people off guard.
Yep.
Um, but off the rip, like Brentford scored, Kevin Schad 1-0, assisted by none other than Jordan Hendo. Liverpool won't be denied. At halftime, Brentford went in up 1-0. Then you saw Chelsea, reach into the well, made a bunch of subs at half. Cole Palmer came on in the 56th minute, scored 5 minutes later, assisted by João Pedro. Ouattara came on in the third, which was interesting that he didn't start. Garnacho made his debut in the 79th minute. João Pedro came off. Caicedo scored in the 85th minute to make it 2-1 Blues. And in the 93rd minute, so in the third minute of stoppage time, Carvalho scored off of an assist by I'm gonna go for this one, Christopher Vasbak-Ayer, close enough,
Perfect.
to make it 2-2. All in all, they shared the point. But I mean, what was the storyline for this one? I mean,
I think this one would be Cole Palmer coming back, right? He's been dealing with the hamstring injury.
yeah,
Didn't know exactly when we'd see him back. So to see him featured on the bench, you figured it was, you'd see some sort of minutes for him. Comes back, gets a return. That's always interesting. I mean, for those that held on to him, great. Easy to slot back in. Those that sold him, it's probably a little difficult to maneuver your way back to him. But yeah, Chelsea's lineup was a bit strange. A lot of rotation. Clearly didn't really pan out for them. With 2-2 draw at Brentford, it's a game you'd expect them to win. So, but Brentford, honestly, defensively has been pretty solid to start this year as
yeah.
well. So it's a tough place to play, and Chelsea just kind of fell into that trap.
I think Maresca tried to steal one here.
I think so too. He had a lot of
I
guys coming back from break and
Yeah,
thought some rotation would be fine.
yeah. I mean, credit to João Pedro. We talked about him. He is on the cusp of essential, I think, for his price.
Mhm.
I mean, what does he have now? I think in 4 games, he's got 2 goals and 3 assists. I mean, 5 returns in 4 games. I guess when I say it out loud, that has to be essential.
Especially like when you look across the other
Right,
players at those price points, right? Like compared to like Mateta, Sesko, Wood, like
right.
he's leaps and bounds better than all of them right now.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's definitely a player, I think, if you don't have him, and he also seemingly has not really been at rotation risk, and with the Delop injury, Tariq George hasn't seemed to, come in and take his spot or anything like that. Nicholas Jackson obviously gone, so we don't have to worry about that. João Pedro's minutes seem to be pretty safe. So,
At least for the moment, they look like it. Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, I hate to see Chelsea drop a point or 2,
Not really.
but I'm okay with it.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it, but I know a
Great way to
couple.
end a Saturday
Yeah.
of football.
Yeah, I know a couple people that hated it. But, so then that brought us to today, where there were a couple of more games. Let's see here. All right, so we talked about Burnley Liverpool a little bit, but just for the sake of thoroughness here. So we talked about Kirkes came off in the 38th. He had a yellow card in the 22nd. You mentioned, I think Arna was just really worried about him getting a second yellow. McAllister came off in the 46th with an injury. Ekatike came off in the 72nd. I think that was more just tactics. Verts came off in the 87th, again with another plank. Frimpong came on in the 87th, which was nice to see him come back, get some minutes coming off that injury. And then Mo Salah converted a penalty in the 95th minute to continue that streak of blanking but not blanking. So,
Yeah, not a whole lot in this. I mean, obviously, we didn't see Isak play. Slot to confirm that before. They got to
yeah.
take that slow. Probably see him at home next week, at least get some minutes off the bench. I did think it was a little interesting that the move today was Ekatike out first for Chiesa
Mm,
and Gakpo stayed on because, there's obviously a lot of talk about who's going to drop out when Isak does end up starting and coming back in. So that was interesting first sub. That could all change. I mean, especially if, one of them gets hurt or with Champions League and rotations and whatnot. But no Isak minutes yet. I still think he's probably better off being not bought at this point
yeah.
until we actually see him, and how many minutes he gets. But Liverpool did what Liverpool does, sneak out a win at the end. Penalty for Salah, clean sheet for Virgil. Feel bad for Kirk as owners. Yellow card in a 36-minute sub is a brutal, brutal day. But
Yeah. I will
not
say
much else in this one.
so between my 2 keepers, it was Dubravka and Sells. Of course, I started Sells because of the 2, I just felt like I couldn't possibly start Dubravka against Salah
Yep.
and Liverpool. I was a little bit relieved when Liverpool scored, just because I had Dubravka on the bench, and it was like, yeah, it was a little easier to swallow knowing that, I didn't end up having a clean sheet on the bench. But
Right.
yeah, Esteve owners, I mean, you were very close to getting another one, but yeah, shout out to Burnley. They were able to withstand the attack. 27 shots, only 4 shots on target. Yeah, this was a bludgeon. This was a tough
Hey,
one.
last time Scott Parker played Liverpool, didn't they lose 9-0? So I guess that's a massive improvement.
Is Scott Parker the most handsome man in the world?
One of them. He's very well put together. Like
Well
he
dressed.
looks like he should be a football. Yeah, he looks like he should be coaching soccer for
My
sure.
goodness. My goodness. And that brings us to the last match of Gameweek 4, the Manchester Derby. So this one, I mean, you could call it a match, but basically Manchester City went out there and kind of just did what they had to do. Foden started things off in the 18th minute with a goal. It was a header assisted by Jeremy Doku. They went into half up 1-0. Holland came out in the 53rd, scored his goal. City's up 2-0, another assist by Doku. United made a couple of changes on the back line. Didn't really matter. Holland came in, scored his second goal to make it 3-0, assisted by Bernardo Silva. Undeniable, just being father time. Few subs just to kind of get some fresh legs out there for City. Šeško came off in the 80th. Xerxes, who seems to never die, came back out. But overall, City kind of just came out of this one unscathed. I don't think really ever felt too much pressure. United maybe had a
No.
little bit more possession, but at the end of the day, right, like City really owned this one.
Yeah, I mean, they were just more clinical. They overran the midfield, which is when you look at the two teams, the biggest weakness, for United, is how they set up their midfield. That was always City was always going to exploit that. And when you add in the quality of Foden in there, after being out, he just picked up right where he left off and was integral to those attacks. And shout out to Jeremy Doku. I mean, he had a hell of a game.
Yeah.
He put a move on. I think it was Luke Shaw for the first goal that actually I think made Luke Shaw fall down and broke his ankles. So he had a heck of a game. And yes, City was good. I mean, I don't think anyone's too surprised with the result. I think the biggest takeaway from this game is just, Sesko starting. Anybody, he's kind of up to speed now and as the 9. Foden's back. And Donnarumma started for City, which wasn't really a surprise. Everybody thought he'd slot right in, but, looked good. Clean sheet, albeit it's United's attack. So take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a few things for me. So nice to see Guardiola back in there. It looks like he got through the 90 unscathed. So if you had him for this whole time and you held on to him, good for you. But I think if he's healthy, he's going to play. So I feel like if you want to bring him back in, you can feel pretty comfortable doing that. Reindeer owners, he hasn't returned now basically since I think Gameweek 1. Did he have a return in
Mhm.
Gameweek 2? I don't remember.
No.
But he is playing. So it's one of those things, like we talk a lot about like Pep Roulette, Doku's and Foden, prime example. Like they haven't really sniffed too much of the pitch for the first few game weeks. And that's just the quality that like City has sitting just on their bench, right? Like these are two players that they really haven't even played a ton this season. They come in, they snag a goal and 2 assists. Like, are you kidding me? Like that's just it's crazy. So that's the exact risk that like stops me from bringing them in at times. Foden in the past has been a little bit more nailed, so I could see Foden being one of those people that you bring in. But Doku, I think, would need to show a little bit more. Now, granted, I don't really know who he's competing with at this point. Marmouche,
Yeah, I
I
mean, Marmouche
believe
is hurt.
he's hurt. So if you want to maybe take a punt for a few weeks on Doku, you could. But I don't know. I think once Marmouche comes back, he's probably got that locked back down.
Yeah, I mean, hell, he's rotated. I mean, I think where Foden played in this game is sort of that KDB role, which is where I always thought Foden excelled. When Foden used to get pushed out right on the right-hand side when KDB was there, he'd kind of get lost in games. That's where he got rotated a lot. But when he's in the middle of the park and sort of dictating, he is so clinical.
Yeah.
His finishing is so good that he's an asset Pep loves. I mean, when you hear Pep talk about Foden, like the other day or after the game, he was just like, "It's so good to have him back." Like that's why we had a bad year last year. Basically, is because like Phil wasn't involved, and it's like, okay, well, that's what you want your manager saying. Um,
Yeah.
and you know what? If he can start returning, it gives another outlet into the City attack, other than spending that much money on Holland. So
Right.
definitely keep him on the watch list. See how the minutes look, especially with Champions League coming up. But he's an exciting player to have back in the Prem.
Goals does Holland have this season already?
Too many.
5 goals. Do you
5
think?
goals.
I mean, are we seeing a chip on his shoulder, Holland?
He's playing like it. I mean, he looks sharp.
I
He
mean,
looks like he did that first year.
how many goals did he have against Moldova? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 goals and 2 assists in 89 minutes. I mean, listen, there has been a lot of pundits the last few weeks, few months saying that that number 9 over at Liverpool is, quote, the best striker in the world. Maybe you're waking up the Viking. I mean,
Yeah, I think so, right? I mean, he's playing like a man possessed. He just finds a way. He's another one like in a game, like he'll be quiet for 60 minutes and then all of a sudden he's got 3 goals in 5 minutes.
Yeah,
And it's just like he's just inevitable. He is an athletic freak. He's clinical in front of the net.
yeah,
And yeah, he's looking across at Liverpool and Isak and being like, "Hey, I'm still right over here," you
yeah,
know?
yeah. It's I don't know. I'm not gonna rule City out until really ever. Right now they're sitting in eighth place, but it's still so early. Just looking at the table right now. So obviously Liverpool, they've got 12 points out of 12. Uh, Arsenal and Spurs and Bournemouth actually tied with 9 points apiece in that order, though, on goal differential. And then Chelsea are sitting in that fifth spot with 8. So the table does not look the way I expected it to at this point, but it's still so early.
No, I kind of expected United to be 14th. I think I was pretty much assuming they'd be that bad, so they're where they're supposed to be.
Yeah. It's the relegation battle is going to be interesting. The
Yeah.
Villa's got to start scoring some goals. I don't think they're going to be in the relegation battle. I think at the beginning of the season I had Brentford on relegation watch, but like looking at this group of teams right now, I mean, usually I think what the magic number that teams usually shoot for is usually what, like 30 points? It's usually
Yeah,
like
right
what
on
keeps
30.
them safe. I mean, Sunderland's already got 7. Burnley's only got 3, but Burnley feel like they're playing better than 3.
Yep. They've had some hard games too.
They've had some hard
They
games.
played Spurs already, they played City already.
I mean, Leeds
So,
have only scored 1.
they've looked good though. I mean,
They've
other than
looked
the
good.
Arsenal game where, they got killed, but you chalk that up and move on.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, it's still so early. It's so early, but um yeah, and it's early, which means you've got some time to make things up. Game week 4 was fun. Just talking about team of the week, player of the week. So we mentioned Zubamendi was the player of the week. As far as team of the week goes, so our top scores this week: Sunderland goalkeeper Robin Roufs. I don't know if I'm saying that right. With 10 points, good for him. Mickey Van de Ven over at Spurs defender with 14 points. His center back counterpart Christian Romero Cuti with another 12 points. Other defender Jordi Mukiele with 10 points. Wes Anderson with 10 points. Martin Zubmendi with 16 points. Antoine Semenyo with 13. Moises Caicedo with 12. Philly Foden with 12 points. Lucas Bergvall with 11, and Erling Haaland with 13. And that is your Game Week 4 Team of the Week. If you had every single one of those players, you would have scored 128 points. That would have been impressive. If you had none of those players, oh, you still could have had a good week. That's okay. You still could have been a wizard. And Zach, this episode is sponsored by The Wizard. It's a personal organizer. It's a calculator. It's honestly, we're still not sure. But here's what we do know. If you need to calculate a tip at dinner, The Wizard is your best friend. 15%, 20%, 22 if you're feeling generous. Boom, it does the math, no thinking required. But wait, there's more. With the push of a few confusing buttons, The Wizard can also store phone numbers, keep appointments, and, well, theoretically organize your life. Will you actually use it for that? Probably not, but it makes you look like the kind of person who could use it for that. Isn't that what really matters? So get your very own wizard today at wizardorganizer.com. Use code TINKER for 15% off. That's wizardorganizer.com, code TINKER. The Wizard. It's not just a tip calculator, but it's mainly a tip calculator. And back to the pod. All right, so before we wrap things up, we want to just go through and let's go through our teams, right? So let's see how we did. Z, FPL Black Lab, should we go through you first?
Sure. Yeah, I had a great week.
All right, let me bring it up
So
here.
I ended up playing the bench boost um, week after playing my wild card. And honestly, it was because I was looking at who I wanted to start or sit. and I couldn't figure out who would I want to bench. So that to me was a good enough reason to bench boost. And it worked out really well. I got 23 points on my bench boost, 91 points total on the week. Pope got me a clean sheet in goal, clean sheet for Munoz, Cucurella 1-pointer, barely played, clean sheet for Virgil. Verts 3 points, Bruno Guimaraes 2 points. But then it really picked up. Semenyo got me 13, Matoma got me 7, Watkins blank, Captain Diacares 12-pointer there, and João Pedro 7. So all in all, thrilled with this week. Jumped from I think 11th place in our mini league up to 3rd. And again, could have been that much better if ranking wise, if Salah didn't get that last penalty. Those are big swings for a non-Salah, non-Holland owner like myself. But all in all, great. I think the team's setting up really nicely for the future. Have a couple of transfers in mind, but most likely it'll probably be handling the Verts dilemma and getting him out. But
Yeah. No, I mean, first off, 23 points off of a bench boost is phenomenal.
yeah,
It's so interesting. Like this is like, I mean, historically you would never pull a bench boost, I think, in Gameweek 4. Usually, I mean,
Mhm.
granted, most of the time you try to line your chips up. I mean, at least for myself, I don't want to speak for you, but most of the time you try to line your chips up where, you've got a bench boost maybe coming off of a double game week where you've got a ton of players that are on double game weeks, or you've got a run of like very favorable fixtures. But with having multiple bench boosts, multiple triple captains, multiple doubles of all these chips, it really allows you to kind of think about the optimal time to use these chips twice in one season. To your point, you really couldn't figure out which players you wanted to bench this week, which, like, light bulb, hey, maybe this is a good week to use your bench boost.
Yeah, and I don't think there's going to be a double or any blanks in the first half of the season. There's an outside shot one of the later weeks. I think it's like 17. But in that case, I'll save my free hit and just
Right.
free hit that week if I have to. So yeah, I was just looking at it. I mean, yeah, 23 points on a bench boost. I mean, you're usually happy if you get like 12, right? So
Right.
23 is fantastic. And yeah, good rank boost. And
Yeah.
we move forward. So happy with the captaincy choice. I mean, Yaker has returned. I was between him and Semenyo. And just went for the Arsenal guy against Forest. I thought was a safer bet, but um, all in all, happy.
Is there anything to, like, having, I guess, when you're deciding bench boost, is there anything to going like, 5-3-2, or going 4-3-3, or going, 4-4-2? Like, do you ever think about changing your formation, or like do you feel like you want to have, because I guess, like, think of it this way, like, you obviously don't have Salah or Holland, so you have a lot of potential for high scores on your bencher because you've got defenders, and like you said, you can have very
Mhm.
high swings. Was there any thought of you that thought like, hey, maybe I should get my defenders in my lineup, because if they miss, or sorry, if they hit, I want those players in the lineup. I guess on a bench boost, maybe you don't care so much, but like is that something you think about?
Yeah, for a bench boost doesn't matter because you get their
Yeah.
points no matter where they are. But it led me to bench boosting because like when I was wild carding and I had all the extra money, when I started looking at the premium defenders, they all kind of lined up with a really good matchup this week. And I was like, if I can bank 4 clean sheets out of the 5, which
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did actually, yeah, Poro, Tarkowski, Virgil, Munoz all had clean sheets, plus my 2 goalkeepers
Yeah.
got clean sheets. I set my wild card up accordingly for it, which probably isn't the way to do it. Like in normal course, if I was playing
Mm.
traditionally with Salah or Holland, like you don't set your wild card up to then chip again the next week. But kind of playing the game differently this year, like I have a lot of flexibility where like I could still set my team up for the future while leaving those chips in play.
Right.
Because now
Right.
even still, like I could bank transfers these next few weeks and allow myself flexibility because, even if I want to sell Verts, well, I can just bench them and I could play Reinders next week.
Right.
Um, or, I can go big at the back and I could put Tarkowski or Poro back in, so like it just leaves me a lot of ways to maneuver where I can save transfers to put fires out.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the way your team's set up. And Watkins isn't even returning yet. So, whenever he decides to flip that switch,
It'd be nice.
you're set up. So yeah, super, super nice game week for you. Very excited. All right. So switching over to mine. So yeah, I was late night tinkering Friday night. Late in so I'll go through my points and I'll give a little bit of background. I ended up with 73 points. Got the green arrow, which I was happy about. So I had cells at the back, gave me 1 point. So 6 points on a clean sheet. Van de Ven, 14 points. De Kuiper with 1 point. Mo Salah, who I captained, gave me 18. Kudus with 3. Josh King with 1 point. Semenyo, 13. Holland with 13. Ekatike, 2. And Chris Wood, 1. With Dubravka, Reinders, and yeah, and or Ina and Dorgu on my bench. So what was going through my mind, and I actually was very close to making this transfer. So I had two transfers saved up. So knowing that Ange was brought in and Ina was on, I think it's a hamstring injury.
Yeah, he's out for a little bit.
He's out for a little bit, and he's 5 mil. So I was like, I don't think he's probably owned enough to worry about a price drop, but just like a 5 mil defender, I could use that money. I honestly thought about moving over to Christian Mascara, honestly. But I was thinking, I was like, I'm gonna move him and Dorgu because I didn't like the city fixture. I was gonna move Ina and Dorgu, and I was gonna bring in Senesi and Gehi. So I had them ready to bring in. Um, and then I forget exactly, like, I think it was something I was bringing in a player to basically like put them on my bench. Like I
Yep.
was still gonna have them on my bench, and I was like, if I like what like there's no point in doing that. I'm just as likely like if I'm gonna bring in a 4.5 defender and there's no guarantee of a clean sheet, why not just play my 4 mil defender who's just as likely to get a clean sheet? Like I felt just as good about Sunderland getting a clean sheet as I did about Palace getting a clean sheet. And I felt
Mhm.
just as good about Brighton getting a clean sheet as I did about Bournemouth getting a clean sheet. So I ended up just playing Reinildo and De Kuiper, and I never brought in Senesi and I didn't bring in Gahey. And it ended up working out in the sense that like Reinildo gave me the clean sheet. Gahey would have given me one, and De Kuiper and Senesi both would not have given me one. So I ended up banking the two transfers. So now I'll have three going into next week, and I ended up having a nice scoring game week. So going
Yeah.
into next week, I'll be able to make three moves, which will I haven't spent any time looking yet, but I'm anticipating I will most likely move off of Chris Wood. I'll most likely move off of Ina. And I don't remember who United's playing this week, unless it's a really nice fixture. I probably will move off of the Kuiper because I'm not sure what the injury is. So those would probably be my moves, but I'll save those for the preview up next week. But all in all, very happy to get a green arrow. And like I said, I think my table position right now, as far as like where I am, I'm not where I want to be, but the difference between, my position and, the top five, kind of like where you are. Well, you jumped up this week, but the two or three folks beneath you is only about 40 points. So this was one of those weeks where like netted like 10 points on folks. So chip away, chip away. It's a long season.
Yeah, I think to that point, I looked quickly after Saturday's games, and I jumped from like 5 million overall rank to like I think 600K. So
Hmm,
like we're just at the point in the season where like one good week could change everything. So it's like
yeah,
don't get discouraged, just keep pushing on. And like you see people all over Twitter and YouTube who are big content creators who finish, top 10K every year
yeah,
who are like in the 5 mil right now. So just keep playing your game, keep doing what you're doing.
yeah. So this was so let's just real quick go over Lord Dinkerton here. So this one was kind of scary. I'll give you some background here. So every week, obviously, we have AI kind of pick the team here, and the AI is getting like a little good here. So AI kind of it's beating me almost every week. I think last week was the first week Jim just barely beat the AI by a single point. This week, I think we both got him or her. I don't know it, whatever. But when I put it in the prompt in ChatGPT the other day to make the transfer, uh, it told me to initially. I'm trying to remember now. It told me to. What was the move? Oh, here's what it was. It told me to move Mark Guiu, or Guiu, whatever, to to João Pedro. That's what it was. And to which I replied, "You don't have the funds to do that." And without saying anything else, it said, "I will not make a transfer. I will roll it. So next week I can move Mark Guiu and Strand Larson and bring in João Pedro." And I thought, wow, that's scary, because now he's anticipating, and not only is he figuring out the budget, because that's enough money to bring him in, but he's also figuring out those are forwards. So he's not even it's suggesting the right position, and it suggested a player who is like flag bred with an injury. But yeah. So, but anyway, so like spoiler, it's going to move out Guiu, and shout out to all those folks who just were listening in, and they heard the tip about Mark Guiu just kind of being that trap, because him being reclassified or classified back to his original team put a thorn in some folks' transfer plans this past week. Yeah, the game will get you like that. But all in all, Lord Tinkerton, 67 points, did still beat the global average of 63, but really he got nailed by that Goodmanson own goal. So he basically went from at least 6 points, may have been 8, down to 0. So yeah, solid week. But yeah, all in all, we got some good fixtures coming in next week. Anything else you're looking forward to next week, Z?
Big one as a Arsenal fan. Arsenal City next week. Always a fun game to watch. Always a tough one from an FPL perspective with those two teams to figure out what's going to happen. But no, nice to have just a normal week coming up with the Champions League in the midweek and then back to FPL on the weekends. Not another 2-week break again. This will be nice.
Yeah, definitely nice to get back into the regular rhythm. And we will also be getting back into the regular rhythm. Before we wrap up here, just want to thank FPL Black Lab, Zach, for jumping back on here today. Always a pleasure. Always a lot of fun when you're able to stop by. Jimbo, we miss you. Hopefully you're coming back soon. That being said, we'll be back on Thursday for our Game Week 5 preview episode. Please like us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Drop us a comment. Follow us on Twitter. Follow FPL Black Lab on Twitter, Instagram. Not too late to join our mini league still. We'll drop the mini league code in the description as well. And we'll be talking to you guys soon. Thanks.
Draft dreams rise like morning sun, chasing points, the game's begun. Big decisions week by week, fantasy glory's what we seek. Pick your squad, the clock won't wait. Captain choice will seal your fate. Two enthusiasts breaking it down. Fantasy kings, we're taking the crown.